Mr. Speaker, there are very many negative socio-economic impact on the things that, on the lives of the people affected by banditry and cattle rustling, Mr. Speaker. This is a very big social problem, Mr. Speaker, where we have people displaced, where we have orphans that would otherwise have been children with their parents, Mr. Speaker, where we have widowers, Mr. Speaker, and this is a matter that needs to be taken very seriously by the government, and that is why I rise to support that we declare this motion that states that seeks declaration of cattle rustling and banditry as a national disaster, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, I want to take this opportunity to thank the Cabinet Secretary for Interior, the Honorable C.S. Kindiki, for what he has, for his efforts, Mr. Speaker, that he has shown over the short period of time that he has been Cabinet Secretary in this particular ministry. Mr. Speaker, we have seen him even visit the grounds where these offenses happen, Mr. Speaker. And this is a job well done. We see a coordinated Cabinet Secretary, Mr. Speaker. But I think there are many other things. There is a lot of room for improvement, Mr. Speaker, where if the CS and the ministry was going, Mr. Speaker, to improve on some of the suggestions that we have, and I'm glad that you have advised that we can introduce amendments to this particular motion, Mr. Speaker. I think one of the challenges that we have been having in trying to arrest banditry and cattle rustling, Mr. Speaker, is where we send the security forces. We send our police officers, Mr. Speaker, and it has been established that most, I don't know why this tradition has been there, that the askaris that we send to these particular areas, Mr. Speaker, sometimes are newly recruited and trained askaris, newly posted askaris, Mr. Speaker, where they find the terrain very challenging, Mr. Speaker. I think I would want to suggest that they form a special group of askaris, Mr. Speaker, and basically and mostly those drawn from those areas. We have askaris, we have young men and women that have grown up in these bandit-prone areas, Mr. Speaker, and who are very conversant with this type of terrains that we have in those particular areas, Mr. Speaker. I would want to propose and suggest to the CS that they can pick a special, they can make a special wing, basically comprising officers who have grown up in those areas, Mr. Speaker, so that they will be able to handle that terrain. They'll be able, Mr. Speaker, to be superior in handling these bandits, Mr. Speaker. And I think that is something that is doable because we can be able to identify where people come from even when they are serving in the forces or in the service, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker, banditry and cattle rustling over the years has appeared like something that cannot be arrested. But Mr. Speaker, I remember that some years back we had a problem with a group that was calling itself Sabaot Land Defense Force, SLDF, Mr. Speaker, that gave this country, and especially Kenyans living around Mount Elgon, a very great problem for a number of years, Mr. Speaker. And when enough was enough, and the army was deployed to go and arrest that problem, Mr. Speaker, it took only a few months, and the leader of that particular gang was actually killed, Mr. Speaker. I do not know why the leaders from these areas do not support or are always opposed to the deployment of the armed forces to go and arrest that particular menace, Mr. Speaker. I think this is something that should be highly thought about so that we do not have a perennial problem This is something that can be done. This is a problem that can be arrested, Mr. Speaker, and I suggest that we look at the possibility of posting or deploying the army, Mr. Speaker, to go and arrest this problem, Mr. Speaker. I have listened to Senator Cheralge indicating, and I think I concur with him, that there could be people, sometimes even in Parliament, Mr. Speaker, that support this cattle rustling for the commercial benefits that they get from this, Mr. Speaker. I think we should have a special investigative team, Mr. Speaker, to investigate and see who funds, if at all, these rustlers, Mr. Speaker, so that whoever it is, we cannot continue having our people killed. We cannot continue seeing our people lose their life investments in their livestock that they keep, Mr. Speaker, just because there are some people that could be powerful somewhere that support this particular problem, Mr. Speaker, or this banditry. Mr. Speaker, let us establish a special investigative group that will investigate, establish who funds these people, who supports these people, who gives these people protection, political or otherwise, Mr. Speaker, so that we can be able to deal with this problem once and for all. Most of these animals, Madam Speaker now, most of these animals, when stolen, they are transported to big towns and cities where they are slaughtered and sold as meat to city residents, Madam Speaker. I think we need to tighten the noose. We need to have some very good programs on transportation of animals. We should be able to establish the source of animals transported on a daily basis, Madam Speaker, so that if we have reason to believe that the animals being transported are animals that could have been stolen, then I think we can have an intervention before these animals reach the market. Because if there was not going to be any market for these stolen animals, then of course, Madam Speaker, we would not have people stealing these animals, and that way we would be able to arrest this problem, Madam Speaker, because these animals are not, once stolen, they are not kept by the bandits. They are transported for slaughtering. We should be able to come up with a method of seeing to it that all the animals in transit are animals that have been acquired genuinely, Madam Speaker. These bandits always have some very sophisticated firearms. We do not manufacture firearms in this country. The last time I checked, we were not manufacturing firearms. How do these firearms get into our country, Madam Speaker? I think that is a question that we need to ask ourselves. How do these firearms get into our country? I mean, we have only manned entry points. Why do these firearms enter our country? Who influences this illegal entry? Because there must be some collusion somewhere. It cannot be that these firearms just get into the country. I think we also need to investigate and know who colludes with the illegal importers of firearms that eventually get into the hands of these bandits, Madam Speaker. I think I want to really support the idea of establishing a special fund to deal with this matter, because we need to put up schools in these areas. We need to put up hospitals in these areas, Madam Speaker. We need to finance these people. We need to sensitize the people living in these areas, Madam Speaker, so that they can be able to know when a young man is growing and when they have been taken to school, They should be sensitized. They should know that opportunities exist. That if you go to school, you do not have to rely on banditry in order for you to be gainfully employed, Madam Speaker. And I think this funding will be of utmost importance. We need to know, we also need to train our people that we do not, to also carry out, rearing of animals in a better way, in a way that can also be profitable to them. And I think this fund will go a long way if established as proposed in this particular motion. And Madam Speaker, I can see the yellow light from the clerk's desk. I do not want to continue, but I want to say that this is one of the most progressive motions that we have had in this particular house in the recent past, and I want to thank Senator Cheptumo for this well-thought motion, and to which we will be introducing amendments as advised by the Deputy Speaker. Madam Speaker, I support this motion. Thank you very much for the opportunity.
Thank you, Senator Joe Nyuto. Senator Beatrice Akinyi Ogola.
Madam Speaker, as I rise to support the motion on cattle rustling and banditry, Madam Speaker, I want to say from the onset that banditry in itself and cattle rustling is an act of criminality from the word go. Madam Speaker, it looks like these are organized criminal activities, and that specifically just points to an organized way of doing business. And to me, Madam Speaker, it is somebody's business. Madam Speaker, sometimes back, when there were issues of piracy in the ocean and our water bodies, somebody made a remark that convinced